The snow came down like white death. It fell so thick that Park Tae-ho could not see his own hand in front of his face. The wind screamed across the frozen plains of Veldris 4, and the temperature had dropped to 60 degrees below zero. No human could survive long in such cold. Tae-ho knew this. He had maybe 2 hours before his body would shut down forever. His cargo ship sat 300 meters behind him, broken and useless. The landing had been rough. An engine failure during descent had sent him crashing into this frozen wasteland. The ship's heating system was dead. The communication array was destroyed. Only the emergency beacon still worked, sending out a weak signal into the darkness of space. But rescue would take days, maybe weeks. He did not have days. Tae-ho pulled his thermal jacket tighter around his body. He was searching for anything useful. Old supply caches sometimes existed on planets like this, left behind by previous explorers or mining teams. It was a small hope, but hope was all he had. The wind pushed against him like an angry giant. Each step took great effort. His boots sank deep into the snow, and his legs burned with exhaustion. Ice had formed on his eyebrows and around his mouth. His lungs hurt with every breath of the frozen air. He was about to turn back when he heard something. It was faint, almost lost in the howling wind. A cry. High and thin. Like a child in pain, Tae-ho stopped and listened. The sound came again. It was coming from somewhere ahead, beyond a small ridge of ice. Every part of his mind told him to ignore it. He was already dying. He could not save anyone else, but his heart would not let him walk away. His mother had raised him better than that. He pushed forward through the storm. The snow tried to bury him with every step. His body was shaking badly now. The cold had gotten deep into his bones. But he kept moving toward the sound. When he climbed over the ridge, he saw them. 2 small figures lay huddled together in a shallow hole in the ice. They were not human. Their skin was covered in tiny scales that shimmered even in the dim light. Dark blue and purple colors mixed across their bodies. They had small wings pressed tight against their backs, and thin tails curled around each other. Their faces were almost human, but with larger eyes and small horns growing from their foreheads. Dragon children. Tae-ho had heard stories about the Draconeth, a powerful race that lived in the far regions of the galaxy. They were said to be dangerous and proud, but these were just babies, maybe 4 or 5 years old by human standards, and they were dying. One of them opened its eyes and looked at Tae-ho. The eyes were gold, beautiful, and sad. The little creature tried to speak but could only make a weak sound. Its sibling did not move at all. Tae-ho did not think. He did not consider the danger or the difficulty. He simply acted. He pulled off his thermal jacket and wrapped it around both children. The cold hit his body immediately, cutting through his thin shirt like knives. He would die faster now, but he could not watch children freeze to death. He picked them up. They weighed almost nothing. Their small bodies were so cold that it hurt to touch them. He held them against his chest and started walking back toward his ship. The journey that had taken him 20 minutes before now seemed impossible. The wind was stronger. The snow was deeper. His body was failing, but Tae-ho kept walking. He talked to them as he walked, even though they probably could not understand him. He told them about Earth, about the green forests and blue oceans. He told them about his mother, who made the best soup in his hometown. He told them about his dream to see every corner of the galaxy. His voice shook from the cold, but he kept talking. Somehow, it helped him keep moving. One of the children moved against his chest. A small hand gripped his shirt. The little creature was trying to hold on to him, trying to stay close to his warmth. That small gesture gave Tae-ho strength he did not know he had. The ship appeared through the snow like a ghost. It was damaged and dark, but it was shelter. Tae-ho carried the children inside and sealed the door behind them. The wind stopped. The terrible cold became just regular cold. It was still dangerous, but it was better. He laid the children on his sleeping mat and covered them with every blanket he had. Then he went to work. The main heating system was broken, but he knew machines. He had been fixing ships since he was a teenager. He found the emergency heating unit and got it running. Weak warmth began to fill the small cabin. It was not enough. The children were still too cold. Their breathing was shallow and slow. Tejo looked at his emergency supplies. He had heat packs designed for survival situations. He had 6 of them. They were supposed to last him 3 days while waiting for rescue. He used all 6 on the children, placing them around their small bodies. He made hot water using the last of his emergency fuel and tried to get them to drink. The first child, the one who had opened its eyes before, managed to swallow a little. Its siblings still did not wake. Tejo felt fear grip his heart. He could not let them die. Not after everything. He held the unconscious child in his arms and rubbed its back gently. He breathed warm air onto its face. He talked and talked, telling stories and singing songs from his childhood. Hours passed. The storm continued to rage outside. The cabin slowly grew warmer. But Tejo did not eat. He did not sleep. He just kept caring for the 2 small strangers. Finally, near midnight, the second child opened its eyes. They were silver, different from its sibling. It looked at Tejo with confusion and fear. Then it saw its twin, warm and sleeping peacefully nearby. The fear faded. The little creature made a soft sound, almost like a purr. Tejo smiled. His body was exhausted. He had given away his jacket, his heat packs, his food, and his fuel. He had almost nothing left for himself, but 2 small lives would continue because of what he did. He finally allowed himself to sit down. His back rested against the cold wall of the ship. His eyes grew heavy. Outside, the storm howled its anger at being cheated of its victims. The first child crawled over to him. It looked at his face for a long moment, then climbed into his lap and pressed itself against his chest. Moments later, the second child did the same. Their small bodies were finally warm, and that warmth flowed into Tejo, pushing back the cold that had settled into his bones. He wrapped his arms around them and closed his eyes. Tomorrow would bring new problems. His supplies were almost gone. Rescue was still far away. But right now, in this moment, 2 children were safe. That was enough. The wind continued to scream outside. The snow kept falling. But inside the broken ship, a human man slept peacefully with 2 dragon children in his arms. None of them knew that this night would change the fate of the entire galaxy. Tejo woke to the feeling of small hands touching his face. He opened his eyes and found 2 pairs of eyes staring at him from very close. One pair was gold. The other was silver. The dragon children were examining him with great curiosity. The one with gold eyes poked his nose. The one with silver eyes tugged at his ear. They seemed fascinated by his smooth skin and round ears. Tejo could not help but laugh. The sound surprised the children, and they jumped back with wide eyes. "It's okay," Tejo said softly. "I won't hurt you." The children looked at each other. Then the gold-eyed one spoke. "You, warm one." The words were broken and rough, but Tejo understood. His heart filled with relief. They could communicate. At least a little. "Yes," he said. "I am warm. I am Tejo. What are your names?" The children seemed to understand. The gold-eyed one pointed to itself. Kira. Then it pointed to its sibling. Nolan. "Kira and Nolan," Tejo repeated. "Those are good names." Kira, the gold-eyed one, seemed to be the braver of the 2. She moved closer to Tejo again and touched his hand. Her small fingers traced the lines on his palm. Nolan stayed back, watching carefully with his silver eyes. He was more careful, more quiet. The storm had finally stopped. Weak sunlight came through the ship's small window. Tejo checked his supplies and felt his stomach tighten with worry. He had very little food left. 3 meal packs, enough for 1 person for 1 day, maybe 2 if he was careful. But now he had 2 children to feed. He did not hesitate. He opened 1 meal pack and divided it between Kira and Nolan. The children ate quickly, their small teeth tearing into the food with desperate hunger. They had not eaten in a long time. Taeho watched them eat and ignored the pain in his own empty stomach. "Where did you come from?" he asked when they finished. Kira tried to explain. Her words came slowly, mixed with sounds from her own language that Taeho could not understand. But he pieced the story together. Bad people had taken them. They had been put in a ship and flown far away from home. Then the bad people left them in the snow and flew away. The children did not know why. Taeho felt anger burn in his chest. Who would do such a thing to children? What kind of monster would leave babies to die in a frozen wasteland? He pushed the anger down and focused on what mattered, keeping them alive until help came. The emergency beacon was still working. He checked the signal strength and calculated the time. Rescue could come in 2 days if someone was close enough to hear the signal. It could take a week if no ships were nearby. He had to make their supplies last. The first day passed slowly. Taeho worked on the ship, trying to fix anything that could be fixed. The main engine was destroyed, but he got the secondary lighting to work. The cabin became a little brighter. He found some old wiring and used it to improve the heating system. The warmth became steadier. The children watched everything he did. They followed him around the small cabin like curious shadows. When he worked with tools, they sat beside him and observed. Kira asked many questions. "What is that? Why does it make that sound? What are you doing now?" Taeho answered every question with patience. He remembered being young and curious about everything. Nolan did not speak much. But when Taeho accidentally cut his finger on a sharp piece of metal, Nolan was the first to react. The small child rushed over and examined the wound with serious eyes. Then he did something unexpected. He licked the cut with his small tongue, and the bleeding stopped almost immediately. "Draconith's spit," Kira explained proudly. "It heals." Taeho looked at his finger in amazement. The wound was closing before his eyes. These children had abilities he could not imagine. Yet they were still just children, scared and alone, far from home. By the second day, Taeho had given away all his food. The children needed it more than he did. Humans could survive longer without eating. At least that was what he told himself. His body grew weaker, but he hid it from Kira and Nolan. He did not want them to worry. He found materials in the ship's storage and started making things. A small doll for Kira from twisted wire and cloth. A toy ship for Nolan from scrap metal. The children's eyes lit up when they received these simple gifts. They held the toys like precious treasures. That night, Kira had trouble sleeping. She cried softly, calling out for her father. Taeho held her in his arms and rocked her gently. He did not know any Draconeth songs, so he sang human ones instead, old lullabies that his mother had sung to him when he was small. Kira did not understand the words, but the soft melody calmed her. She fell asleep with her small head resting against his shoulder. Nolan crawled over and joined them. He pressed himself against Taeho's side and closed his silver eyes. Soon both children were sleeping peacefully. Taeho stayed awake, watching over them. His body was tired and hungry, but his heart was full. On the third day, Kira said something that made Taeho's eyes fill with tears. "Taeho is like father," she said simply. "Taeho keeps us safe." Nolan nodded in agreement. "Warm one protects," he added in his quiet voice. Taeho did not know how to respond. He had no children of his own. He had never thought about being a father. But in this frozen place, with these two small creatures depending on him, he understood what it meant to care for someone more than yourself. He taught them human games to pass the time. Simple things like rock, paper, scissors, and hand-clapping games. The children learned quickly and soon were beating him more often than not. Their laughter filled the small cabin and pushed away the cold loneliness. He told them stories about Earth, about the animals that lived there, lions and elephants and whales. The children listened with wide eyes, amazed by descriptions of creatures they had never seen. Kira decided she wanted to see a whale someday. Nolan was more interested in lions. The fourth day came, and still no rescue. The heating fuel was running low. The cabin grew colder. Taeho wrapped the children in every blanket and used his own body to keep them warm. He was so hungry now that it hurt to move. but he did not complain. He did not let the children see his suffering. That night, something changed. Kira woke from a bad dream, screaming and crying. She had dreamed about the bad people who took them. She was terrified, and nothing Taeho said could calm her. So he did the only thing he could think of. He started singing again. But this time, Nolan joined him. The small dragon child sang along in his own language, matching the tune of the human lullaby with Draconeth words. The two songs mixed together in the cold air, human and alien voices combining into something new and beautiful. Kira stopped crying. She listened with wonder in her gold eyes. When the song ended, she hugged both of them. "Family," she whispered. "We are family now." Taeho felt tears running down his face. He had come to this frozen planet as a simple cargo pilot. He had crashed and faced death. But somehow, in the middle of disaster, he had found something precious. Two small lives that depended on him. Two children who had opened their hearts to a stranger. He did not know what would happen tomorrow. He did not know if rescue would ever come. But he made a silent promise in that moment. No matter what happened, he would protect these children. He would keep them safe until his last breath. Outside, the stars shone cold and distant in the black sky. Somewhere among those stars, powerful forces were already moving. A terrible father was searching for his missing children, and he would find them very soon. The fifth morning brought a sound that Taeho had been waiting for. A deep rumble in the sky. A ship was coming. He rushed to the window and looked up, his heart pounding with hope, but the hope died quickly when he saw what was descending from the clouds. It was not a rescue vessel. It was a warship. Massive and black, shaped like a predator from ancient nightmares. Its hull was covered in sharp angles and dark metal that seemed to absorb the light around it. Weapons bristled from every surface. This ship was built for one purpose only: destruction. Kira and Nolan came to the window and looked up. When they saw the ship, they reacted in ways Taeho did not expect. Kira started crying with joy. Nolan shouted something in Draconeth and jumped up and down with excitement. "Father!" Kira cried out. "Father has come." Taeho felt ice form in his stomach. Their father? Their father commanded that terrifying warship? What kind of being was he dealing with? The black ship landed 200 meters from Taeho's broken vessel. The snow melted around it, turned to steam by the heat of its massive engines. A ramp lowered from its belly, and soldiers began marching out. They were Draconeth, like the children, but fully grown. Each one stood over 2 meters tall. Their scales were dark, their eyes were cold, and they carried weapons that hummed with deadly energy. There were dozens of them. They spread out in a perfect military formation and surrounded Taeho's ship. Their movements were precise and practiced. These were not ordinary soldiers. They were elite warriors, trained for the most dangerous missions in the galaxy. Then he came. The father, Lord Vaker. He was the largest Draconeth Taeho had ever seen. His scales were pure black, so dark they seemed to drink in all light. His eyes burned with red fire, and horns curved back from his head like a crown of bone. Great wings folded against his back, and a long tail swept behind him as he walked. He wore armor made of something that looked like frozen shadows. Every step he took made the ground tremble slightly. But it was not his size or his appearance that made Taeho's blood run cold. It was the feeling that came from him. Power. Absolute, terrifying power. This was a being who had killed thousands, maybe millions. This was a creature that entire civilizations feared. Taeho suddenly understood who the children's father was. Lord Vakar. The Shadow Emperor. Ruler of the Netherworld. The galaxy's vast criminal underworld. His name was spoken in whispers across 1,000 worlds. He controlled smugglers, assassins, pirates, and thieves. Governments paid him tribute. Armies avoided his territory. He was the most dangerous being in the known galaxy, and Taeho had his children. The soldiers kicked open the door of Taeho's ship. They rushed in with weapons raised. Taeho pushed Kira and Nolan behind him and raised his hands. He had no weapons. He had no way to fight. He could only hope they would let him explain. They did not give him the chance. A soldier struck him hard across the face, and Taeho fell to the floor. Another soldier grabbed him by the hair and dragged him outside into the snow. His knees hit the frozen ground, and he looked up to see Lord Vakar standing before him like a mountain of darkness. "Where are my children?" The voice was deep and cold, like thunder from a grave. "They are inside," Taeho managed to say. His lip was bleeding from the blow. "They are safe. I kept them safe." Lord Vakar made a gesture, and soldiers entered the ship. Moments later, they emerged carrying Kira and Nolan. The children were not hurt, but they looked scared by all the soldiers and weapons. Kira was clutching the wire doll that Taeho had made for her. When Vakar saw his children, something changed in his terrible eyes. For just a moment, the cold fire became something warmer. He moved toward them with surprising gentleness and knelt down to their level. His massive clawed hands touched their small faces with careful tenderness. "My little ones," he said, his voice suddenly soft. "I searched the entire galaxy for you. Are you hurt?" "No, Father," Kira answered. "The Warm One saved us. He kept us safe in the storm." Vakar's eyes turned back to ice. He stood and looked at Taeho with a gaze that promised death. "The Warm One? You mean this human? He is good, Father." Nolan spoke up. His quiet voice was firm. "He gave us his food. He made us warm." End quote. But Vakar was not listening. He was looking at the evidence his soldiers had gathered. The broken ship, the human distress beacon, the empty food packets. His mind was putting together a different story. His children had been kidnapped and taken to this frozen planet. A human was found with them. The conclusion seemed obvious. "This human took you," Vakar said. It was not a question. "He stole my children." "No," Kira shouted. "No, Father. Other bad people took us. They left us in the snow to die. The Warm One found us and saved us." Vakar hesitated. But years of ruling the criminal underworld had made him trust no one. He had many enemies. Any of them might have arranged this elaborate trap. Perhaps this human was a spy, sent to get close to his family. Perhaps the kindness was all an act. "Search his ship," Vakar commanded. "Find proof of who sent him." The soldiers tore through Taeho's broken vessel. They ripped open panels and scattered his belongings across the snow. They found nothing suspicious. Just the normal equipment of a cargo pilot. A few personal items. Pictures of his family back on Earth. Letters from his mother. One soldier found something and brought it to Vakar. It was the toy ship that Taeho had made for Nolan. Scrap metal bent and shaped with careful hands into a tiny spacecraft. "The human made this," the soldier reported, "for your son." Vakar looked at the toy. His red eyes studied the simple creation. Then he looked at Nolan, who was reaching out toward the toy with desperate hands. "Please," Nolan said. "Taeho made it for me. Please give it back." Something flickered in Vakar's expression. But he pushed it aside. A leader of the Netherworld could not be soft. He could not trust. He handed the toy to his son but turned back to Taeho with cold judgment in his eyes. "Human," he said. "My children were stolen from their beds. They were brought to this planet and left to die. You are the only one here. You will tell me who sent you. You will tell me everything. And then you will die." Taeho looked up at the terrifying figure before him. His body was weak from days without food. His face was bloody from the soldier's blow. He knew he had no chance of survival. But he would not lie. "I am a cargo pilot," he said clearly. "My ship crashed on this planet by accident. I found your children dying in the snow. I saved them because it was the right thing to do. That is the truth. I have nothing else to tell you." Vakar stared at him. The silence stretched on. The wind blew cold around them. Then the Shadow Emperor raised his clawed hand, preparing to strike the killing blow. Kira screamed. Nolan screamed. Both children broke free from the soldiers and ran toward Tae-ho. They threw themselves in front of him, their small bodies forming a shield between the human and their father. "No," Kira cried, tears streaming down her face. "You cannot hurt him. He saved us. He is our friend. Father." "Please," Nolan begged. "He is good. He is warm. Do not hurt the warm one." Vakar's hand stopped in the air. He stared at his children with shock. They were defending this human. They were willing to stand against their own father to protect a stranger. In all his years, Vakar had never seen such a thing. What had this human done to earn such loyalty from Draconeth royal children? The question hung in the frozen air, waiting for an answer that might change everything. Lord Vakar stood frozen in place. His clawed hand still hung in the air, ready to deliver death. But his children stood between him and the human, their small bodies trembling but their eyes filled with determination. This was something Vakar had never experienced before. "Move aside," he commanded. His voice was cold but uncertain. "No, father," Kira said. She spread her small arms wide, trying to cover as much of Tae-ho as possible. "If you hurt him, you hurt us too." Nolan nodded and held up the toy ship that Tae-ho had made. "He gave us everything. His food, his warmth, his blankets. He has nothing left because he gave it all to us. How can he be bad?" Vakar lowered his hand slowly. He looked at his children with new eyes. They had been through a terrible experience. Kidnapped from their home, abandoned in a frozen wasteland. Yet here they were, defending the one who saved them with a courage that surprised even him. "Tell me everything," he said. His voice was different now, quieter, listening instead of commanding. Kira began to speak. She told her father about the storm, about how she and Nolan had been so cold they could not feel their bodies anymore, about how the human had appeared from the white death like a spirit. She described how Tae-ho had taken off his own jacket and wrapped it around them, how he had carried them through the terrible wind to his broken ship. Nolan continued the story. He told his father about the heat packs and the warm water, about how Tae-ho had not slept for the first night because he was too worried about them, about the songs the humans sang to calm their fears. Then Kira held up her wire doll. "He made this for me, father, from pieces of his ship." He sat for hours bending the metal with his bare hands. His fingers were bleeding when he finished, but he just smiled and gave it to me. Vakar took the doll and examined it. It was rough and simple, made by someone with no proper tools. But the care in its creation was obvious. Every twist of wire showed patience and love. This was not the work of a kidnapper or a spy. This was a gift from the heart. "He never ate, father," Nolan said softly. "We did not know at first. He would give us food and say he was not hungry. But Kira saw him holding his stomach when he thought we were sleeping. He was starving, but he gave us everything." Vakar looked at the human kneeling in the snow. Tae-ho's face was thin from hunger. His body was weak and shaking. Dark circles surrounded his eyes from nights without sleep, yet there was no fear in those eyes, no begging or pleading, just quiet acceptance of whatever fate would come. This confused Vakar greatly. He had met many beings in his long life: warriors, criminals, kings, and cowards. Most beings, when facing death, would say anything to survive. They would lie, beg, make promises they could not keep. But this human simply told the truth and waited. "Human," Vakar said. "Do you know who I am?" "I learned when I saw your ship," Tae-ho replied. His voice was calm. "You are Lord Vakar, the Shadow Emperor, ruler of the Netherworld. Then you know I have killed thousands. You know I could end your life with a single thought. Why do you not beg for mercy?" Tae-ho was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke words that would echo through Vakar's memory for years to come. "Because I did nothing wrong. I found 2 children dying in a storm. I saved them, because that is what decent beings do. If you want to kill me for that, then my death means nothing. But I will not apologize for doing the right thing." A murmur went through the assembled soldiers. They had never heard anyone speak to Lord Vakar this way. They expected their master to explode with rage, to tear the foolish human apart, but Vakar did something unexpected. He laughed. It was not a cruel laugh. It was a sound of genuine surprise and perhaps respect. The Shadow Emperor had ruled through fear for centuries. But here was a weak, hungry human who faced him without terror. "You are either very brave or very foolish," Vakar said. "Probably both," Teho admitted. A small smile crossed his tired face. Vakar turned to his most trusted soldier. "Commander Reeks, investigate this planet. Find evidence of other ships. Find where the real kidnappers went." The commander bowed and led a team away. They used scanning equipment to search the frozen wasteland. Within an hour, they found what they were looking for. Landing marks from another ship, tracks leading away into the mountains, the remains of a camp where the kidnappers had waited. More importantly, they found a dead body. One of the kidnappers had apparently argued with his partners and been killed. His equipment still contained data about the plan. The children were supposed to die in the cold. Their deaths would be a message to Lord Vakar from a rival crime lord who wanted to start a war. When Vakar heard this report, his red eyes blazed with fury. But not at Teho. The human had told the truth. He was just a simple cargo pilot who had crashed in the wrong place at the right time. Vakar walked over to Teho and looked down at him. The human looked up without flinching. For a long moment, neither spoke. "You saved my children," Vakar finally said. "You gave them your food, your warmth, your protection. You expected nothing in return. You did not even know who they were. They were children in danger," Teho said simply. "That was all I needed to know." Vakar was silent again. In his entire existence, he had never met someone like this human. Everyone in the galaxy wanted something from him. Power, money, protection, favor. But this man had saved the most precious things in Vakar's life without any thought of reward. "Stand up," Vakar commanded. Teho struggled to rise. His body was too weak. He had not eaten in days. He got halfway up before his legs gave out. Before he could fall, a strong hand caught him. Vakar himself had reached out to steady the human. The soldiers stared in shock. Lord Vakar touched no one. Lord Vakar helped no one. Yet here he was, holding a human upright like an old friend. "You are weak from hunger," Vakar observed. "You truly gave them everything." "They needed it more than I did," Teho said. Vakar made a decision in that moment, a decision that would change the relationship between his empire and humanity forever. "Commander Rix," he called out. "Bring food and medicine for this human, the best we have, and prepare my personal quarters for his recovery. He will be treated as an honored guest." The commander hesitated. "My lord? He is just a human." Vakar turned his burning red eyes on the commander. "This human did what no one else in the galaxy would do. He risked his life to save my children without expecting anything in return. He is not just a human. He is something rare and precious, and he will be treated accordingly." Kira and Nolan cheered with joy. They ran to Teho and hugged his legs, nearly knocking him over. Teho looked down at them with confusion and relief mixed on his face. "I do not understand," he said to Vakar. "A moment ago you wanted to kill me." "A moment ago I did not know the truth," Vakar replied. "I have spent centuries surrounded by liars and betrayers. I forgot that true goodness still exists in this galaxy. You reminded me." He placed a massive clawed hand on Teho's shoulder. The touch was surprisingly gentle. "Come, human. We have much to discuss, and my children clearly have much more they want to show me about their new friend." Kira grabbed Teho's hand and pulled him toward the great black warship. "Father, you must see. The warm one knows the best games, and he sings songs that make bad dreams go away." For the first time in longer than he could remember, Lord Vakar, the terror of the galaxy, smiled a genuine smile. 3 days passed aboard the massive warship. Taeho spent most of that time recovering in quarters that were larger than his entire apartment back on Earth. Servants brought him food whenever he wanted. Doctors checked his health every few hours. He slept in a bed softer than clouds and slowly regained his strength. But the best part of his recovery was the constant visits from Kira and Nolan. The children came to see him every chance they got. They brought him drawings they had made. They showed him their favorite toys. They insisted on teaching him Draconith games and laughed when he failed at them. Taeho learned more about their world. The Draconith were an ancient race, older than most civilizations in the galaxy. They lived for thousands of years. They were naturally powerful, able to breathe fire and survive in extreme conditions. But they were few in number, and children were rare and precious among them. Kira and Nolan were Vakar's only children. Their mother had died giving birth to them, a tragedy that had nearly destroyed the Shadow Emperor. He had poured all his love and protection into his twins. When they were kidnapped, he had mobilized his entire empire to find them. Ships searched hundreds of worlds. Rewards were offered that could buy planets. Nothing was too much to get his children back. On the fourth day, Vakar himself came to visit Taeho. The Shadow Emperor looked different in normal light. Still terrifying, but less like a monster from nightmares. He sat down across from Taeho and studied the human with those burning red eyes. "You look better," Vakar observed. "Your doctors are excellent," Taeho said. "It is nothing compared to what you gave my children." Vakar leaned forward. "I have been thinking about what to do with you, human. A proper reward for your actions." Taeho shook his head. "I do not need a reward. I just want to return to my life. My cargo routes. My simple work." This answer seemed to confuse Vakar. "You saved the heirs of the Netherworld. You could ask for anything. Wealth beyond imagination. Power over entire systems. A fleet of ships, worlds to call your own. And you want to go back to hauling cargo? I like my life," Taeho said with a shrug. "It is not exciting, but it is mine. I get to see new places, meet new people. I have my freedom. What more does anyone need?" "Owning," Taeho said. "Owning my freedom." Vakar was quiet for a long time. Then he began to laugh. It was a deep, genuine sound that shook the walls. "You are the strangest being I have ever met," he said. "Everyone in the galaxy wants something from me. They scheme and plot and betray for the smallest scrap of my favor. But you want nothing. You truly want nothing. I want your children to be happy and safe," Taeho said. "That is all I want." Something changed in Vakar's expression. The hardness melted away for just a moment. Behind the Shadow Emperor's terrifying exterior, Taeho caught a glimpse of a father who loved his children more than anything in the universe. "That is exactly what I want as well," Vakar said softly. He stood up and walked to the window. Stars stretched out endlessly beyond the glass. His vast empire of shadows and secrets floated somewhere among those points of light. "I am going to give you something whether you want it or not," Vakar said. "Not treasure or power. Something better. Protection." He turned back to face Taeho. "From this day forward, you are under the protection of the Netherworld. Anyone who harms you answers to me. Anyone who threatens you faces my entire empire. You will carry a mark that identifies you as an ally of Lord Vakar. No pirate will touch your ship. No criminal will steal from you. No government will dare to trouble you." Taeho did not know what to say. This was more valuable than any treasure. In a galaxy full of dangers, complete protection was priceless. "There is more," Vakar continued. "You called my children family. They called you the warm one and said you are like a father to them. I do not give my trust easily. I trust no one, in truth. But my children trust you with their whole hearts, so I will trust you as well." He approached Taeho and placed a clawed hand over his own heart. "I name you Taeho of Earth, uncle to the royal blood, friend of the Shadow Throne, protected one of the Netherworld. These titles are not empty words. They carry weight across 1,000 worlds. Taeho stood up and bowed deeply. He did not know the proper response to such an honor. "I do not deserve this," he said. "You deserve more," Vakar replied. "But I know you would refuse anything else. Your humility is both admirable and frustrating." The door burst open, and Kira and Nolan ran into the room. They had been listening outside and could not contain their excitement. "Uncle Taeho," Kira shouted, jumping into his arms. "You are really our uncle now." Nolan hugged Taeho's leg and looked up with his silver eyes shining. "You will visit us? You will come see us sometimes?" Taeho felt tears forming in his eyes. He had never had children. He had never expected to have a family beyond his mother back on Earth, but somehow, in the strangest way possible, he had gained two incredible children who adored him. "I will visit whenever I can," he promised. "And you can come see me too. I will show you Earth someday. The forests and oceans and mountains. I will introduce you to my mother. She makes the best soup in the galaxy." "Better than palace food?" Kira asked with doubt. "Much better," Taeho assured her. Vakar watched this exchange with an expression that few had ever seen on his face. Peace, contentment. His children were safe and happy. They had gained something precious, a human who loved them without wanting anything in return. In a universe full of darkness, this simple cargo pilot had brought light into their lives. 1 week later, Taeho stood in the landing bay of the warship. A brand new cargo vessel waited for him. A gift from Vakar, despite his protests. It was sleek and fast, equipped with the best technology the Netherworld could provide. Kira and Nolan clung to his hands, unwilling to let him go. "Do you have to leave?" Kira asked, her gold eyes wet with tears. "I have to work," Taeho explained gently. "But I will come back. I promise. And you can call me any time. Your father gave me a special communicator that works anywhere in the galaxy." Nolan pressed something into Taeho's hand. It was a small scale, deep blue and shimmering. "My scale," Nolan said quietly. "So you remember us?" Kira quickly pulled out one of her own scales. "Purple and gold. Mine too. Keep them with you always." Taeho held the scales like they were the most precious jewels in existence. To him, they were. "I will keep them over my heart," he promised. "Always." Lord Vakar stepped forward. He did not embrace Taeho. That was not his way. But he clasped the human's shoulder firmly and looked into his eyes. "The galaxy will know what you did here," Vakar said. "Word will spread. A human saved the children of Lord Vakar. A human showed kindness to the Netherworld. From this day forward, your species has earned a place of respect in my empire." Taeho smiled. "Maybe that will help other humans out there. Make things safer for them." "It will, I guarantee it." Vakar's red eyes held something like warmth. "Travel safe, Uncle Taeho, and remember, in the darkest corners of the galaxy, you will always have family." Taeho boarded his new ship and lifted off. Through the window, he watched the massive warship grow smaller and smaller. 2 small figures stood at the observation deck. Waving frantically, he waved back until he could not see them anymore. As he set course for the nearest trade route, Taeho smiled to himself. He had started that terrible day as a simple cargo pilot. He had nearly died in a frozen wasteland, but he had gained something beyond price. A family among the stars, the friendship of the galaxy's most feared ruler, and proof that kindness, even in the darkest places, could change everything. Behind him, across the criminal underworld, a message spread from shadow to shadow. Humans were under protection. Any human in Netherworld space was to be treated with respect. The reason was simple but powerful. One human's compassion had touched the heart of the Shadow Emperor, and Taeho flew on through the stars, carrying 2 dragon scales over his heart, looking forward to his next visit to the strangest, most wonderful family a human had ever found.